They found him slumped at the base of the grave, one hand still clutching the stems of crushed wildflowers, the other pressed gently to a crumbling headstone. Lieutenant J. Moore, USMC, Kia 1968. It had rained the night before. His coat was damp from the grass. His hat lay a few feet away, blown off by the wind. He was alone. No one saw his chest rise one last time. No one saw the quiet way his eyes finally closed. The coroner assumed he was homeless. The cops figured he was just another forgotten soul, until they unzipped his jacket and found an old, faded envelope, not addressed to a person, but to a unit designation. 3 days later, when the Pentagon operator answered the phone, asked the responding officer to repeat the grave coordinates, and then fell silent on the line. That's when it began. So, before we go further, let us know where you're watching from, and if you believe no soldier should ever be remembered by accident. Like and subscribe, because this story starts with a man the world forgot, and ends with a salute that shook Arlington itself. His name was Ray Navarro. Most people knew him as the quiet janitor at Westport High. Khaki uniform, wireframe glasses, a limp that slowed him just enough to be invisible. He swept the halls, fixed desks, wiped chalkboards no one else bothered to clean. Teachers thought he was odd. Students barely noticed him. Once, a vice principal even asked if he'd consider retiring. For safety reasons, Ray just nodded and kept wiping windows. But every Sunday, before the church bells rang, while the town still slept, Ray would drive 15 miles out toward Route 19. He'd pull into a forgotten cemetery beside an old truck stop. The gate creaked, but he always closed it softly behind him. He brought no one, posted nothing, no selfies, no hashtags, just a man with wild marigolds or dandelions, and a mission. He'd kneel before a grave that leaned slightly, half-choked by moss, the name blurring from decades of acid rain, and he would whisper the same 6 words. "You're not forgotten. Not this week." Then he'd sit, sometimes writing in a worn leather notebook, sometimes just watching the trees move like ghosts. No one knew that Ray had never met Lieutenant Moore. He'd stumbled across the grave 10 years ago. While looking for a cousin's marker, he saw the rank, the silence around it. It didn't sit right. A Marine, with no flowers, no flag, no visitors. Not while Ray Navarro still had breath in his chest. The ritual never stopped. Not after a stroke. Not when the VA stopped returning his calls. He didn't want recognition. To the world, he was background noise. A mop and a name tag. Until the day a jogger stopped to catch his breath at the gate and saw Ray kneeling in the mud, pressing something to the stone, like a prayer. He snapped a photo, posted it. Man leaves flowers at same forgotten grave for 10 years. It went viral. Ray didn't even know what that meant. He still used a flip phone, still paid bills at the post office. But someone in uniform saw the photo. Someone who recognized the name. And by the time they traced it back to the cemetery, to the town, to the school, Ray Navarro was already gone, collapsed at the base of the grave, flowers in hand, peace in his chest. The VA said he was just a lonely old man, not a real soldier. But when the Pentagon opened the envelope in his coat, marked, classified, to be opened only upon death, everything changed. 2 bronze stars, 1 silver, a personal commendation from a general who vanished in country in '74, and at the bottom in Ray's handwriting, "I didn't save him, but I never forgot him. They came to my house 20 minutes after I returned from the cemetery. 2 Marines. Full dress blues. Not clipboard tight. Brass. Storms in silence. Mr. Navarro?" I nodded. "We'd like to talk about Lieutenant Moore." I didn't speak. Just stepped aside. They sat at my kitchen table, unfolded a leather folder, laid out a photo. Our squad. Soaked and grinning. Moore in the middle. Hand on my shoulder. Helmet tilted back like, we made it another day. Below it, a document. My service number. A sealed commendation. You understand what this is? I didn't answer. You sat beside a fallen Marine for 10 years. The officer said, that's more than some do for the living. They asked me to attend a ceremony. For more. For me. I almost didn't go. Sat in my truck 10 minutes, watching fog roll over the dewy grass. But when I stepped out, the weight of the morning told me, this wasn't about me. They'd restored the grave. Polished the name. James M. Moore, First Light, USMC, 1944 to 1968. Never forgotten. But what broke me was the envelope. Resting on the stone. Sealed with wax. In my handwriting. You're not forgotten. Not this week. The general saluted me. Mr. Navarro, he said. You're listed as custodian of record. This is your ceremony too. I didn't want headlines. Just memory. Just more. But then a young man approached. Cane in hand. Patch on his shoulder. ROC. My dad served with Lieutenant Moore, he said. He told me, if I ever got the chance, to thank the man who remembered him. He handed me a photo. Me and Moore on sandbags. Boots off. Socks drying in the sun. He called me the watchman. Then the bugler played taps. And I stood. Not from pride. But duty. Because Moore deserved noise. Music. Voices raised not in sorrow, but in reverence. They fired 3 volleys. Folded the flag. And placed it in my hands. He had no next of kin. They said, you're it now. Beneath Moore's name. They carved a second line. In honor of Raymond Navarro for 10 years of unsung service. I didn't cry. Not until I saw a group of children. 10 or 11. Each with a wildflower. They placed them gently at Moore's grave. Not because they knew him, but because someone told them a story about a man who never forgot. That night, I pinned Moore's photo beside mine. Closed my leather notebook. Wrote one final line. The watch ends, but the memory stands. Then I sat by the window and watched the wind move through the trees, like a whisper, passing through generations.